And they're in school 5 days. There's Jacob soccer.
We need some more front people here. But they come from right?
So are you also starting college?
I am a person.
So that's kind of so different than I can totally see that. Yeah. The music, right? The music.
So I. They're live. There you go.
Yeah, good. Whatever you have to tell yourself.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Got
you would go over, there are some pavers over there. Great, thank you.
Good morning and welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual free thinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Dorothy Hoskins, your worship associate for this morning. This morning's preacher is our minister, Eileen Casey Campbell. This service is now being live streamed, we hope, on our YouTube channel. So I hope everybody at home can see us all right. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to come in and sign the visitor's book in the entryway. And whether it's your first time or your 1000th time, we are glad that you came. I have a few announcements to share with you today. If you are within 6 feet of anyone else, even outdoors, please wear your mask. We won't be able to sing in unison. Humming is welcome. You can tap your feet and clap your hands because Bill's that kind of musician. Childcare will be provided outside behind the church for children who can wear a mask. All RE volunteers are vaccinated. If you missed, or especially enjoyed a summer worship service and have been eagerly awaiting to see it on the YouTube channel, they should all be posted now. Are there any other announcements for the good of the community?
I have. You keep. I didn't listen. I have one announcement, which is that we are going to have a book discussion about the book How We Show Up by Mia Birdsong, and that will be on September 30th, which is a Thursday evening at 6 o'clock. You can find out how to sign up in the link in our newsletter. And if you aren't getting our newsletter, feel free to sign our visitor book and we will make sure that you do.
As we prepare to be fully together, I invite you to silence your phones and other devices at this time. We now enter a space of worship. you are at home and you are lighting a chalice, I invite you to get yourselves ready for the chalice lighting at this time. If you are here and you'd like to join in the words, I hope you know them because he didn't give you a printed service. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, and celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning again. I am so happy to be here with you in this space this morning. And even though I'm so happy to be with you, I have a little bit of a sad story to tell. And I think it's a sad story, but it's relevant during this time of Jewish New Year, and it's relevant during this time of searching for hope. And so one of my favorite authors is Viktor Frankl, who is an existentialist who was a psychotherapist during the 30s and 40s. And as he was beginning his practice of psychotherapy, he ended up being detained in Auschwitz. And then he wrote a book from the point of view of existentialism about what that was about, how that felt for him. And one of my favorite stories that he's told many times goes like this. He was detained in Auschwitz and he had sort of earned the favor of a guard. And this particular guard managed to get him a coat when winter was looming. He got him a coat from the pile of belongings that had been taken from people as they entered the gas chambers. So he gave Viktor Frankl this coat, and Viktor Frankl started wearing it. And then he noticed on his work duty that the hem of the sleeve had been torn a little bit. And when he wiggled his finger into the tear, he found a rolled up piece of paper. He opened it, and on the paper, he read the Shema Yisrael, the daily prayer. And he said in his many writings that we like to point to atrocities, we like to point to these darkest times and say, look at what humans are capable of. Look at what we can do to one another. And that's true. But also, he pointed out that this is what humans are capable of wearing hope on their sleeve, of facing down even death, of facing down the greatest of this world's evils, and still hoping that there is something in this world worth praising. And I know that that's why we come to church, too. Because even in the darkest times, even when we're not sure what morning would look like, we believe there may be something in this world worth praising, and that we can hold that hope for one another. Welcome to our service this morning. I wish we could sing together, but I invite you to rise and hum or dance or clap or sway with our first hymn, Calm Thou Font of Every Blessing.
It's number 126 in the hymn. Hear the cries of sorrowful sighs. Feel our love glow like the sun when we all serve one another. Then our heaven is begun. Come thou come of inspiration, tune our lives to higher ways. Lift our clue and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us find ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thy aid, O hound of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
And now it's time for a story.
What story?
What story? It is an old story retold. So you may have heard the story of Pandora's box. And this is a retelling called Pandora's Gift. And it goes like this. Long ago, when the world was so brand new that there was still a little bit of sheen on it, the gods looked down at Earth. Suddenly they realized they'd made a mistake. The gods themselves were a widely diverse group. Some were tall and thin, others were short and wide. Some had hair that was blonde and curly, others had hair that was dark and straight. Some were male, some were female, a few were a bit of both. And yet, when the gods had made the humans, they'd made only one gender, a man. And how boring is that? What about their sister Aphrodite? They'd forgotten to make a human modeled after her qualities. And how could they make a mistake like that? So they got to work, carefully modeling, shaping, making clay to look just like Aphrodite. They fussed and they worried. They wanted their new creation to be beautiful and good. They wanted her to be lovely and kind. And when they finally finished making her, she was all those things. They breathed life into her, and she was filled with goodness and passion. They called her Pandora, and they knew they could choose her for a special and challenging job. The guards wanted Pandora to keep guard over everything that was her opposite. They wanted her to keep all that was not beautiful, good, and lovely and kind from tainting this world. So they took anger, hatred, greed, jealousy, despair, sorrow, suffering, pain, illness, all that evil. They plunged it into a big and beautifully decorated urn. They closed the urn tightly with a fitted cork, and they sealed it up with wax just in case. They gave the urn to Pandora and commanded her not to open it. They sent her off to live in the lower realms where we humans dwell, and they rubbed their hands together with satisfaction. All was well and as it should be. Pandora would keep the lid on all the evils of the world, and the gods could relax. Pandora placed the lovely urn in a corner of her room. For a while, she was so busy being alive that she forgot about it. But now and then, when her eyes would drift to that corner of the room, she would wonder what was inside that urn. What would happen if she were to open it? If you'd been given a gift and told not to open it, would you be curious?
No.
Good. Opening just a crack, though, she thought, that couldn't hurt, right? Should she do it? One day, suddenly she thought, why not? And she opened it, just a crack. But immediately it was too late. The deed was done. Out flew darkness and fear and jealousy and anger and greed and hatred. All the evils flew out into the world, and she tried to catch them and push them back into the urn, but they moved with such force that Pandora could barely press the lid back down. It was impossible. It was hopeless, or so it seemed at first. But as she sat there wondering what to do, she heard something tinkling inside that urn. Something had not escaped, and the sound was gentle. What was it? Well, she opened the urn just another crack more, and she saw something that put a smile on her face. What she saw was just a glimmer of hope. She opened the lid a little wider, and hope flew up and out into the world and spread its bright light everywhere. Surely, she thought, if hope can survive in an urn filled with all the evils of the world, then there is reason for each of us to feel hopeful. And this is the end of our story. And if any of my young friends would like to join Miss Nancy in the backyard for some childcare and play, you can follow her now. She will lead the way.
But where's the playground in the background?
Oh, we live in hope, Elliot.
I invite you now into the spiritual practice of generosity. Donations from all of you is the primary way we fund the good work of this congregation. 1/4 of our plate collection this season goes to Keeping Our Promise, an organization working to help resettle refugees from Afghanistan and nearby countries in the Rochester area. You can give to this morning's offering by visiting https://canandaiguauu.org/connection/donate, or by mailing a check to UUCC at 3024 Cooley Road in Canandaigua. In both cases, please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We also, for those of you who are here present in physical state, we will provide the baskets during the offertory. We now gratefully accept the offering.
Now is the time in our service for centering, followed by some shared silence. So I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears. Let your breath become slow and steady. This morning's words of meditation come from a song by the Bengsons, Hope Comes. Hope comes from the place where the hurt comes. The part of you that is not all right is also the part that loves the light. And the part of you that is suffering is the part that calls in change. And you don't have to feel ashamed. There is nothing to forgive. The part of you that is crying out is the part that wants to live. Hope comes from the place where the hurt comes. When your world is burning down, well, getting hot is a sane reaction, but one in need of action because your spirit needs protection. So gather up your sinew and gather up your faction. Hey, hope is not a feeling. Hope is an action. Hope comes from the place where the hurt comes. We are not all right. I'm going to fall down on my knees. That's an act of living. I'm going to say, will you help me, please? That's an act of living. I'm going to say I'm not all right. just trying to make it through this night, I'm going to fall down on my knees, will we say, would you help me, please? We can say we are not all right. We can help each other, because hope comes from the center of the hurt, in the middle of the dirt. We'll plant a seed and watch it grow. Amen.
Our meditation hymn is number 123 in the Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the skirts of compassion. Come in the wind, rise in the sea, in the hand, giving life, shape of justice, through holy laws, wings set free, Spirit of life, come to me.
So I have to start with a confession today. I know we don't do that very often in this church. But I did the thing that I had warned us all not to do. But maybe you remember that I said when our return to in-person activities at the church happened, it would not be one magnificent celebratory moment. How it was going to be messy, there would be stops and starts and mistakes, and how for a long time it'd be some of us here and many of us someplace else. I insisted that we not think about this as a return to normal because remember how the status quo was never the world we dreamed of anyway. Well, here's the confession part. I did not take my own advice. I imagined a big homecoming celebration where we'd reconsecrate our building and actually, go inside of it. We'd sing and rejoice together. It'd be the start of a new year, one where we'd be, if not back to normal, then something like it. I imagined I would ask Bill to play Dolly Parton's Light of a Clear Blue Morning, and we'd get out of our seats and dance with relief and release. And things did not happen the way I planned them, believe it or not. We're not worshiping inside our building today. Many of us are holding more anxiety than relief right now. That clear blue morning suddenly seems so far off. And that's the thing about hope, isn't it? It feels easy to conjure a hopeful vision of the future when you need it least. And it seems so far away, so unobtainable when you're there in the dark of night, waiting for morning to come. We have been walking through a long, dark night. And it is hard now to imagine what morning might even look like anymore. We thought we saw a return and a release on the horizon, but things shifted and the horizon doesn't look like it once did. I never imagined I would send my child off to kindergarten this week with higher COVID infection rates than there were last fall. We never imagined we would, some 18 months later, still be doggedly learning how to worship together outside of our sanctuary. Some of us, maybe, feel like we've lost sight of that morning we are moving toward. I know I have felt that way. But I decided to preach about the stubbornness of hope this morning anyway. Because actually, hope is born out of our pain, out of dread. Like a seed that will not sprout unless it's buried in the soil, the long, dark nights of our soul are precisely the genesis of hope. Times like these, when the vision of morning lives only in our hearts, because we cannot see anything hopeful on the horizon, and it feels like it might last forever, this is when hope comes alive. All our bright tomorrows are begun as dreams in that dark place. All the transformation and liberation we might be part of are born in the dark, dreamed into being by people who saw nothing good on the horizon and so dreamed up a new and better morning. I warned us not to cling for hope to a return to normal because our former normal was not what liberation looked like. There was no clear blue morning there. It feels like forever ago, but you may recall me standing at the pulpit right inside there many a Sunday in the past, preaching about transforming the world together. We dreamed of a better world then, in the days when we breathed all over each other in the same room, and we still do now. I'm not here to convince you that everything is okay. Lots of things about our reality suck. Plenty of things are going to get worse before they get better. But despair does not get to make a home here. This place, our community, can grow a seed of hope even in the darkest times. And this right here in front of me has always been our church, and this building never has. The light of morning can only dawn if we imagine what that looks like now in the dark. This is a time when we create in the dark places of our hearts. This is the time when our stubborn hope begins to birth a new day. The hope in Pandora's box, the gift she gave the world in our story this morning, I don't believe that hope accidentally slipped into the sealed urn of evils. It is precisely in a box of evil that hope is born. What else but a pile of the world's darkness would generate the need for hope? And this gift of hope, this gift that feeds us and holds us through every dark night, is born wherever we hold the vision of morning in our hearts, even if we aren't sure it will ever come. So I want to invite you to participate in our water communion this morning. We come together in this ritual, and whether you brought water from a special source or whether you used the water from previous water communions here on the table, I invite you to participate. But first, let your gaze fall to your container if you have one. Let your eyes soften and allow your breath to draw your focus inward for a moment. Listen for that voice that sings into the deep well of your soul. You know what is held in your own heart. Listen now and hear if your heart is in a drought, in need of refreshment and renewal, if the far corners of your soul have gone unwatered for too long, or if labor or loneliness or grief has sapped life from the ground of your being. Listen now and hear whether you are in a storm, the upheaval of wild winds blowing you in every direction, if the squalls of injustice and disease threaten to submerge you, listen for that storm. Listen and hear whether you find calm waters, waters that glimmer in the light and reflect truth back to you, waters that can heal and hold and lift you in all the goodness of life and love. These waters, the combined gifts of all of us, remind us that we are never without the deep wellspring of hope that resides in us. So whatever water flows in you today, I invite you, taking your time, giving each other space, to come forward and pour some of it into our common container. And know that whatever flows through us, it connects us one to each other as we gather in community. Please come forward as you feel moved and add water to our vessel.
long, dark night. I've been waiting for the morning. It's been a long, hard fight. I see a brand new day dawning. I've been looking for the sunshine. You know I ain't seen it in so long, but everything's gonna work out just fine. Everything's gonna be alright. It's been all wrong. 'Cause I can see the light of a clear blue morning. And I can see the light of a brand new day. And I can see the light of a clear blue morning. And everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. It's been a long, long time since I've known the taste of freedom and those clinging vines. Can be bound, but I don't need them. It's been like a captured eagle. You know, an eagle's born to fly high. Now that I have won my freedom, like an eagle, I'm ready for the sky. 'Cause I can see the light of a clear morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear morning. And everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I can see the light of a brand new morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a brand new morning. And everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay.
This weekend, we welcome 3 new members to our congregation. We are so grateful to have them among us. I want to lift up that we are not only a place of transformation which welcomes them in, but we are also a place that is transformed by them. So with great joy, I ask our new members to come forward as their names are read. Aaron Julian, Mike Waller, and Jill Paremba. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. So having earlier signed our membership book and made pledges of time and resources to the furtherance of our congregation's mission, our new members have done their portion of the joining process, and now it's up to the rest of us to do our part. So I ask you all for 3 commitments as a way of welcoming and connecting ourselves with these new members. First, do you, as a community of hope, promise to stand and work beside these new members as we all envision and enact a more just world? If so, please respond with a hearty "we do."
We do.
Do you, as a community of healing, promise to do your part in making this a place where these members can bring their joys and sorrows, their struggles and their celebrations? If so, please respond, "We do."
We do.
And finally, as a community of heart, do you offer these new members the freedom to love and listen to the sacred, to experience wonder and make meaning as their hearts and consciences lead them? If so, please say, "We do."
We do.
So I want to offer to you new members the gift of these 3 plants at the front of our altar, having been watered by our common water. And may this community nourish you as these plants have been nourished. And then I'd like to ask a volunteer of the 3 of you to make an offering of the rest of our communion water to our gardens here. Thanks, Jill. Thank you. Friends, welcome to this community. It is so good to join together in this journey. May our walk together be filled, be long, be full of grace. Amen. And I offer as a benediction these words by Linda Susan Ulrich. Let us go now, all who long for the stars. Come to the place where that vision of infinity is written upon the people's hearts. Hold it until you've memorized the way. Set your compass to point towards hope and begin our journey home. Amen. Would you join by humming, swaying, and dancing in our closing hymn, number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, strawberry completed where it betrayed. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, Lord of the Almighty sovereign. Praise for creation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
We we won't hold hands, but I would encourage you to look towards a neighbor or several neighbors. Turn if you need to as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts till we are together again. Amen. Nothing.